camera is recording. Camera's plugged in. Everything's good. Go ahead.
Good to go? All right. Here we go. Episode 3, Iron Age Radio. We're back with a vengeance with the second appearance in 3 episodes of the one and only Selkirk's favorite son, Andrew Langelaar. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Thank you for being here today. Again, our third show, and we already have 66% of it is Andrew.
Yeah, I was going to start calling it Iron Age and Iron Age Radio at this point.
Featuring Andrew. Yeah, he's my guest host now. So but we had to have you on. There was nobody else that made sense to bring in this week because I am sitting now in the presence of Manitoba's newest pro strongman. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. Pretty awesome given how we talked about last week. So
yeah.
Kind of a lot of the forecasts were right. Some of them were wrong, very wrong, and it just worked out okay.
So how do you feel about the whole experience? Like, how do you feel? Like, do you is it like pure raw like joy and happiness about this thing, or how does it make you feel to be in this kind of new position that you find yourself in?
I mean, like there's definitely happiness and accomplishment, but it's also like, okay, now we get to see SM, right? Like it's awesome and it's great. And I know Billy and I were joking. We're like, we got added to the pro group chat. We're like, yeah, this is the best thing ever, right? But
just wait till you're in there for a little while and it gets pretty sometimes.
Pretty bored. But so it's like, yeah, there's like a lot of happiness, and it's kind of it's a little surreal.
Sure.
Because I mean, I went to do the math, and it was 7 months between the novice show and
that's crazy.
nationals, right? So it's like you're just kind of like, what just happened to a degree? Yeah, I definitely very, very happy.
Yeah, and I mean to do it in such a dominating fashion too, to not only get on the podium but to take first place. Like,
that honestly was a surprise.
Yeah.
I knew. So I mean, I injured my hand on the sandbag. We talked about that, where I'm all bruised up through here. I don't think anything's fractured. I think it's just a strain based on how it feels.
Why don't you just say what you did?
Yeah. So basically, the sandbag medley, I knew guys were going quick, and I knew guys were going a good distance. So I was able to watch and see where the point was. They were a little looser, and they kind of let us float into the stands a little bit towards the end, which was nice because at first they were like, no, you stay back there and you don't watch.
Right.
So with this one, it was nice because I was out there, so I got to see where Billy got to. And I knew Billy would be a front runner for this one.
Sure.
So I saw exactly he got to this hash mark on 2.5 runs.
Right.
So I went out there, basically just went fast as I could. What helped me but also hurt me was a lot of guys were picking up the Inukshuk like Husafel and just kind of going with it. I took a second to lap it because I knew I was fast. So in getting that, I got it higher on my chest, but then I did 1, 2, turned, and felt myself going black. I was like, "Ooh, okay, I'm going night-night." So I tried to go faster, and I tripped.
Right.
And I kind of jumped forward and got what I needed, or at least what I thought I needed. And like I said, so I hit the ground and kind of jammed my hand on the cement, and JF standing there like, "Get up, you have time." I'm just like, oh,
a very JF reaction to that.
No, I'm done here. You know, I'm like seeing stars, and so I got him by like 5 inches or something like that.
Amazing.
So it was good.
Billy was one of those guys that I was talking about where like the static strength isn't really there yet for him, but he's very athletic, and I knew that he would be a guy who would take that Husafel or the fucking whatever Inukshuk thing for a run.
And he did, yeah. It was impressive, and I mean, just also such a nice guy. Like, I had fun with him at Westerns. I had fun with him at this show, so it was just nice to see him do so well.
Yeah.
I also selfishly called that because he was like, "Oh, you're gonna get that pro card," and I'm like, "Hey, man, Western boys take the pro cards." And he's like, maybe not yet for me." I'm just like, "Nope, I told you, I called it." So Manitoba has the oracles because you called Sean Hayes and I called Billy.
That's true. Yeah. Wow.
So we know our things.
We're good predictors of the strongman future.
But yeah, so then going into the Stones, I knew I had good points, but take this at face value. This is not a criticism on the organizers of the show at all.
Yeah.
It took a very long time for us to get our orders.
Sure.
We were waiting a very, very long time in between events to know who was where and what the points were.
Right.
So I knew I was in second overall, but I didn't know what the points were.
Right.
Going into the Stones. And then so going through the Stones, my hand was all dinged up. And so I bobbled a couple stones because I'd pick it up. I'm like, oh,
like watching the run and not knowing that you'd hurt yourself. I was like, this isn't like Andrew did.
And if you watch on the second stone, I stepped forward.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah,
That was because squatting up, I felt something go in my quad.
Oh, okay.
So that was where I was saying with my right quad. So you could see the exact moment where my feet kind of split apart. So it's like, that's not good.
It doesn't feel good.
And then it kind of just like, okay, well, whatever, adrenaline, just finish the run. And,
For sure.
But yeah, so I was bobbling those stones, and then I was just fast enough loading them and moving between them that little bobble didn't hurt me. I think I still won the stones.
Right.
So, and then I go backstage and kind of everything wraps up. And JF's sitting back there on his phone. So I'm like, oh, I'll go over and, thank him for coming down. I went, hey, like, appreciate it. Like, it's cool to see, like, all the guys here. And so he shakes my hand. He goes, you won, yes? I'm like, well, I don't know. The points are kind of, I haven't heard anything yet. He goes, I think you won. And just goes back to scrolling Instagram. I'm just like, okay, JF, like, thank you.
JF's so funny because he's one of those guys where it's like, he's like a very much like a monolithic figure to like Canadian strongmen in general, right? And then you just talk to him and he's just like a funny guy. You know what I mean? Like,
well, like, the thing for me is, like, I grew up watching World's Strongest Man on TSN at my grandparents' on Christmas.
Sure.
And I always just saw there was one guy with a Canadian flag.
Right,
so that was my guy.
For years
Obviously,
and years.
it's JF for years and years, right? I didn't know anybody else. I just knew Canadian, Karan, that's the guy. I like him. And so, like, when we were at Westerns, we're all out at Original Joe's there, and I was sitting in the corner. I just feel his tap on my shoulder. I look over, he goes, I am JF. I'm just like, I know, man.
I know who the fuck you are, yeah.
I'm just like brain reboots for a second. So it's, but it's just, he's such a humble guy where it's like, he remembered my name. He came up, shook my hand. I'm just like, he's just such a nice guy. It's kind of one of those like meet your heroes things, right? Like,
were you there when we went and got food after Westerns? Were you one of the guys who made it down?
Yes, where we couldn't get food because the kitchen closed.
No, maybe not that then. Because we went to a place and he just bought the entire table dinner.
Oh, no, I didn't come to I think a couple of you guys went to Original Joe's after, right?
No, we went to some other place, but it was some French place.
Yeah,
But it was,
I didn't go to that because I was just exhausted.
Do you remember what it was called?
It was called Normandin.
Normandin, yeah. And he just picked up the tab for the whole table. Like, didn't have to do that.
He did that at breakfast too.
Yeah.
He just walked in with Colton, and then just like all of a sudden our breakfast was paid for. Like, what the heck? And he's like, I'm going out to smoke. Next thing you know, he's back out of the parking lot with his,
go 5 darts right now.
It's like, holy crap, man!
Yeah,
like,
he really
so
rules.
Nice.
He's when we talk about him being like like he's the god, like the father figure of the strongman scene here. And it's not just because he's very good at strongman. It's not just because he podiumed at World's Strongest Man. It's not just because he's 9 times Canada's Strongest Man. It's because he's like really good to us and takes care of the boys and makes it so you feel like you're a part of something when you go do a show like Westerns or when you do Canada's Strongest Man or whatever. JF fucking rules. I hope everyone knows that who's involved in Canadian Strongman and hasn't met him yet. You got to meet him because he's a great guy. So when we're looking at the standings for nationals here, amateur nationals. We had you, and was his name Kevin Bilodeau? Is that what it was?
Kevin Bilodeau.
Yeah, what a monster.
I felt horrible. So Kevin is the nicest guy. And
a nice French guy.
Honestly, so I'm sitting there talking to him, and he's kind of like nodding along, and he goes, I don't speak English good. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel so bad. So I put what I was trying to say in Google Translate. We kind of go that way. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, I used to speak nearly fluent French. I'm like, I'm kicking myself now for not keeping up with it. Because I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this guy's just an absolutely hilarious guy.
Yeah.
I can't understand half what he's saying.
Yeah.
So it's like, we were all kind of joking about that and stuff. But like, just super nice dude. An absolute monster statically.
Yeah, super. Like,
insane.
I wasn't aware. I'd seen some of his lifts on Instagram and stuff. So I knew that he was a strong dude, but I didn't see him just being as fucking in the mix as he was there, because it was really turned into a 3-horse race there between the three of you guys.
It really did, yeah.
And like a lot, I don't even remember anybody specifically off the top of my head, but a lot of guys have a lot of work to do to get ready if they're trying to. I want to think how I want to word this. So, like, if you 3 guys hadn't shown up for whatever reason, there was a sickness that only affected people named Kevin, Andrew, and Billy, and the next 3 guys got that pro status, boy, would that have been a dump, in people being ready for that next level. You know what I mean? And I would really want it to be that. So the guy, and like, I'm not saying don't do nationals. Of course, do nationals. But I think that if guys are really considering that, like, I want to make that jump to pro status, some of those numbers got to get bumped up a little bit for some of these guys.
Yeah, and it's different when you have like 1 lagging lift or 2 lagging lifts, but like everyone was very nice, but there were a couple of guys where they underperformed where I thought they would from gym lifts.
Sure.
There were some guys who performed really well and were really happy with their day.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the rounding out the top 5 was Matt Gibson and Crisby.
That sounds about right. Yeah, Crispy's a guy with I would use as an example of that, where pressing, great. You know, he's a strong dude when he's keeping his feet planted on the ground. Has some work to do with the moving events. Has some work to do with the strongman specific events, which might have something to do. I think he trained in his garage.
So he's literally like alone in his garage with limited equipment. So it's amazing that he's 5th in the country in a garage gym.
Yeah, and it's going to limit what's available to you in terms of like implements and how much you're able to move your feet and stuff if you're training in a smaller space, whatever. But that's something that I think needs a little bit of work. And then, you know, and this is no disrespect to Billy at all. If he listens, well, shout out Billy for getting your pro status. But he's a guy where he zeroed the log and the deadlift at Westerns. Now, keeping in mind that that was already 6 months ago or whatever.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Not quite, but whatever. Yeah. So numbers go up, especially for a young guy like him who's working hard and making it happen. But he's going to have to make sure that if he wants to represent that pro status and hang and not just be like, I'm a pro, and then get annihilated, those numbers have to go up a little bit for some of these guys.
Well, and him and I were talking afterwards, and kind of like we're joking. I was like, well, shoot, we actually have to get strong now.
Yeah,
like we're on the circuit. Like,
I guess that's the way that I mean to say it. I really want to stress that I'm not trying to shit on Billy or anything, but there is an expectation now.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were saying. We're like we're both aware. It's like if you want to hang on the circuit, you got to be minimum 350 log, minimum 750, 800 deadlift. Like you have to be strong in those things.
The deadlift is getting to the point where it's like I said, the winning deadlift at CSM was like
925, I think.
925.
Fred hit.
Yeah, like you like I hit 780, and that split the middle. Like that was like me and Gabe both got the same thing, and it did not do much for us in terms of points. And that was even if I had gotten what I'd pulled at Westerns, I would have gotten one more point. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't. You have to have an easy 800 pull. Yep. Not even just an 800 pull. You have to have a pretty easy one.
Pretty smooth,
to hang,
kind of back your pocket.
Yeah, to hang with these guys in that way. It's pretty ridiculous. And you want to talk about pressing. You have to have 230 minimum circus dumbbell. You have to have a 350 on any kind of two-handed press, whether it's axle or log or whatever it might be. Yeah. And you have to just be able to bang out fucking reps at that weight too. Yeah. And it's a whole other beast when you like I remember my first time when I went to CSM, and just the guys are bigger. Like the fucking, you know what I mean? Like you shake their hands and you're just like,
meeting the Rayum twins?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
They're monsters. Yeah, and you're a big guy too. It's not like you're the dwarfing you or anything.
But you look at the picture with all the circuit pros and then the new 3 ones, and it literally looks like take your kid to work day. So you've got Max and Joey on one side, you have Fred and Gabe on the other side. It's like
Joey is a guy who doesn't come across on photos and stuff how big he is in real life.
No,
and he's dropped a bunch of weight.
And
he's like
super nice,
and one of the nicest guys on the circuit for sure. But he's dropped a bunch of weight, and he's still really like I just saw him at CSM, and I was like expecting to see kind of this like slimmed down version of him, and it just wasn't. He was still fucking huge. Like
he's a monster.
Yeah, these guys are gigantic, and it really it's really an eye-opening experience, and I think that's actually a really good thing that say the Rayum twins and even JF, like you just stand next to JF and you're like, God damn,
this guy's retired.
This guy's retired, and he's and shout out JF for that giant squat that he was doing recently too. You want to call that retired? I guess that's retired, but you stand next to these guys, and it just gives you right away at nationals or as winning amateur nationals being like, okay, this is a little bit of a wake-up call. These guys are not fucking around. You know what I mean? Like the Rayum twins being a perfect example of that.
Yeah, and I think that there is that level, and I don't know. I think maybe JF's going to have to start getting more selective in how many pro cards he gives out. Because even Billy was saying he's like, does third get one? And I'm like, I think it's up to his discretion. And I think Billy is strong enough and good enough where like he deserved that pro card.
Sure.
But like I said, and also just the mentality of like we're being honest, like, we got to get stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, like, an arm over arm basically made the entire field underperform on log.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's
and
true.
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, I don't know if you just want to run through the show front to back, but so, like, and honestly, shout out to all the volunteers because they very quickly realized that the heat system was not going to work.
Yeah.
So, from the time that we actually got there and had the athletes meeting to the open men lifting was probably about 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
It was like 8 o'clock, and I think we started arm over arm at like 11:30. So it was a long time. So that probably factored into some of it.
But I will say too, though, you got it's show day. Things can happen.
It's
you
the
know
same
what
for
I mean?
everybody,
like
right?
Yeah. Like
so
if one guy went and then they changed it, I feel bad for that guy. But if everybody goes at the same time and everybody has the same weight, it's not the kind of stuff that you want to have to prepare for, but that's where the mental game plays into it.
That's where the mental game plays in. And so I know, so we went up for the arm over arm, and I know there was a misload. So there was two kinds of traps. There was heavy one and a lighter one.
Okay.
Apparently, I ran into Max after that event, and he was all frustrated. And I'm like, "Hey man, like, it's fine." He's like, "No, like they misloaded it." We're like, oh, and apparently it's supposed to be perceived as about 200 pounds heavier than it was in the hands.
Okay.
So that was a dramatic difference. The guys were saying like they were doing equipment testing on the properly loaded one, and it was like they couldn't finish the run. Like
really?
Max was having trouble with it.
Wow.
And so it's like, okay, so that was
because it was flying in competition.
It basically turned into a foot race, and I think that there were 5 guys between 21 and 22 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, that becomes the issue is when you get we actually had that at where was it? Maybe it was Westerns a couple years ago, where the truck was so light that it was like a few seconds. Yeah, it was 2 years ago in Fort Mac. Like 3 seconds split the first like 5 guys. You know what I mean? And that's just not fun. Where too much of that it could be attributed to human error on the stopwatch, and that's just not good for anybody who's taking this really seriously. You know?
Well, it kind of became more of like a who had the right shoes and who didn't lose their footing.
Yeah, well,
sort of thing. I mean, that's why
SWIC,
Billy went barefoot.
Yeah, and I texted Trevor too. I was like, "Hey, it might be worth considering going barefoot on that one," because I was watching SWIC, and then it ended up really being just like sort of like the Taylor Woods at the lighter women that had problems with it, but they were sliding all over that floor with it.
Sam took a really bad fall.
Yeah,
it was just off camera, but she hit the deck hard,
Yeah.
and everyone was a little nervous. But yeah, like there was a lot of people sliding around, and like I was kind of torn between going to SWIC because like on one hand it's SWIC, it's awesome.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's like, well, I got to compete tomorrow. I don't want my adrenaline spiked up.
Sure.
It just was easier with Blake because Blakely just ended up being our chauffeur the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
To Blakely.
Nice, Blakely,
but
yeah.
so we were just there and we're just hanging out. So I got to watch, but then I kind of watched the arm of arm, and I'm like, okay, well, I kind of see the technique, right? It's like you got to get your hips back, knees forward, and just almost do like quad extensions all the way back and just deal with the pain.
You did go watch SWIC though.
Yeah. I ended up watching SWIC, which
That's
is awesome show.
That's good, and I that was one thing that kind of drove me nuts when we had SWIC and Nationals here last year. Was I was like the attendance for SWIC was good, and I was happy with it. But I was like, there should be a built-in audience. If we have 150 athletes, there should be a built-in audience of 150 fucking people here at this show, because this is and it's right or wrong, especially the women, because this show is there to give them something to strive for, to have something to progress to. So if we can't give them an audience to do it in front of, why are we even doing it? You know what I mean?
I understand why they had it the night before. Because I'm sure like Sam was integral on Saturday and stuff.
Right, I think that's.
But it was like it was kind of like did you kind of limit your audience by doing that?
Yeah.
Because like, there's going to be people who are taking the competition super seriously, and they're like, hey, I'd love to go, but I'm also not. I know myself better enough where I'm not going to be able to go and not scream my lungs out.
Right.
And get involved, right? And that was what I was worried about. I kind of had to like catch myself a few times. I'm like, just chill. Like,
but I think that's a good thing to do. I think these are all good skills to practice as an athlete, to be like, I'm going to support something that's important. I'm not going to burn myself out and be like an adrenaline mess at the end of this. But yeah,
you have to learn it too, though, right? Because now I have to go to the Arnold's.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to have to deal with that.
And it's a long day.
So
there,
it's a long day, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, that just ended up being a foot race. And I said, I think Billy just edged me by like a half a second or a fraction of a second.
Right,
Something like
yeah.
that. So it just ended up being a foot race, which.
Okay.
All right,
Well, we're back on.
camera memory space has been cleared, and we're back on here. That was literally a matter of a couple seconds here. So please continue with your story.
Yeah, so I was kind of hoping that the arm over arm would take more out of some of the guys on the
Yeah,
log.
yeah, absolutely. It didn't have the exhausting effect that I thought it might have on some people, because it was just not that.
Because originally it was supposed to be log first,
Yeah.
and then the arm over arm.
Yeah.
And then as was the arm over arm first, and guys were like, oh, I'm already warmed up for log, and I'm like, this could be good for me.
Yeah.
Because we talked about last week, my log sucks, and apparently it really sucks. So I'm like, okay, this is good. It's going to pre-fatigue some of the bigger guys who I know have good log presses. I was thinking like the Crisbys, that Joel guy out there, Dan Barlow, like a lot of the guys who were statically very strong. I'm like, okay, this will fatigue some of these guys and split more points. That was all I was thinking of. And then I got to the log, and people were underperforming.
Yeah.
I was amazed how many guys
Like pretty across the board, yeah.
I think 8 guys in the field zeroed the first press. And then, I got 2, almost 3 reps at Westerns, and I just couldn't get that 320 up.
Yeah.
And I think that I pushed prep too hard.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Honestly. Like I've had kind of a weird little like pain here through my lat the last couple times I've been doing overhead pressing work, and I think it was just like I pushed too hard, too fast, kind of just riding the high of the bar speed.
Sure.
And then like 4 weeks out, I'm like, well, hang on a second, my program, like, because I wrote a block and then went over it with Guy and stuff, and I was kind of like, well, shoot, I was only supposed to be at 285 for triples here, but I'm at 305. So I'm like, I think that in my excitement of like the bar speed's moving, I think I just fatigued myself too early and I missed my peak.
Interesting.
My own fault. That's the whole point of having a coach, and now it's a little hard with having him consult for me now.
Right.
But it's like, shoot, I dropped the ball on that one. That's entirely my bad.
But that's a learning experience for yourself too, as a coach, as a competitor, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's like now I can really understand why I have such a hard time pulling some of my clients back. Where I'm like, no, don't add 50 pounds this week. No, stay where you are.
Hey, there's nothing else. There's nothing better than having a nice little anecdote to be able to throw behind something.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know what I mean?
Hey, remember that time I screwed up the log?
Yeah, you want that to happen to you, motherfucker? Because
so yeah, and that was the biggest thing where I'm kind of like, I finished that and I was like, yeah, I kind of knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Which sucks because honestly, yeah, like the way that training and stuff was going, I'm like, if I'd hit my peak properly, I probably would have been good. Just on my own terms, going for 340, I probably would have had the 320 for sure. But it's like at the end of the day, it didn't matter that much because again, so many people missed it.
Right.
And I know Kevin underperformed because I think he's used to that 10-inch log and he's a shorter guy.
They use those 10-inch logs in Quebec.
Yeah, but he's a shorter dude, so I think that affected him a little bit. So he only got up to he got up to 360 or whatever.
Yeah.
340. He got up to 340.
He hit 340, right?
And then Tommy got 360.
Yeah, okay.
He's a little bit taller, a little bit larger than Kevin, and he's a very strong presser. I think he's hit 380 on the barbell, something like that. So like he's a strong presser.
Yeah.
But that split points because he wasn't really in the mix with all the moving events. So that split points nicely and kind of kept the field more even at the top there.
Sure.
But yeah, I think a lot of guys were really unhappy with the performance on the log. That was kind of just, I don't know, it was a long day. Again, same factors for everybody. Everyone underperformed.
Yep.
And it is what it is, but the points settled the way they settled.
It's I guess if nothing else, take a little learning experience from that is that I think that very often we get stuck in this mindset that press is first. Press will be the first event that I do. I will be fresh when I do it. To give, like we're going to get into a little bit later, but the Magnus competition, the press is the last event of the last day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and that's the way that Magnus does it on even the Gimli show. Like we did the press second or third.
Yeah, it was second or third.
At
We did
the
deadlift,
first,
Hercules hold,
and then press. I think,
and then press. I think.
Yeah. So it was pretty late into the game, and it's worth mixing up your training a little bit. Like what I try to do is I'll put like 2 big lifts in a day that aren't really related to each other.
Yeah.
So for example, if I don't think you guys knew that you were going to be doing log seconds. So there's not much you can do to prepare for that. If you thought it was going to be first, you thought it was going to be first.
Yeah.
But what I might do is I'll do my farmers before my log next time, or what, you know what I mean? Just so that I'm a little bit zapped going into log, and then I can have an idea of how I'll feel when I'm not 100%, or what I can expect when I'm not 100%.
Exactly.
You know,
well, just train in the conditions, right? So.
Right. So, but I mean, there's something to be said too that it's an amateur show, right? So these guys are going to be as experienced as amateurs, so mistakes will be made and those things will happen. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about the organization stuff. I'm just talking about the athletes to be able to be prepared for these things. It's easy to be like, the pro guys should all know exactly because they should, but the amateur guys, there's going to be a little more of a learning curve there, right? So
yeah, that's even like, some of the amateur guys were warming up like 2 hours before our scheduled start time, and I'm like, it's a little weird.
That's something that I
like in triple ply sleeves. I'm like, that's a little strange. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there.
Sorry, Doll is lining out to the door here. I think that's something that I would really encourage amateur athletes, especially if you have a coach, or at the very least, just talk to an experienced competitor about warm-ups before the show. Yeah. About just like the whole kind of like pattern of events, whatever you might want to call it, like before a show, like what you can expect, when you should start. Like, if I were to use somebody who could just competes a ton, like say Jeffers, he's going to sit down on the show and he's going to have an idea of like, okay, I can see how things are moving. I can see what the start times are looking like. I can see this and that, and I can start to put together what makes sense for me to start warming up. And that's something that I try to do too. With powerlifting, it's much more regimented, where you have an idea of like who's before you, and you can look and be like, well, each of these people has 1 minute or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like you can kind of get an idea. Whereas for strongman, it can be a lot more up in the air. But I think that it really would help a lot of the newer athletes or the inexperienced athletes or whatever to ask somebody who knows a little more, what are the signs that I should be looking for that I should wait to warm up? What are the signs that I should be looking for in the show that it's time? If everything is going 100% on time, it says it's going to start at 11, we're going to start at 11, when should I start warming up?
Yes.
Especially when we're talking about a weight class show. Because if you're in the open division of the men's, you got some time before you're going to go. You might get antsy and be like, the show starts in 30 minutes, I got to start warming up. But for you, the show starts in an hour and 15 minutes or whatever the fuck it might
you just have
be,
to get used to sitting there. It's kind of like when you're boarding a flight and you're zone 5 and they're like, oh, we're calling boarding. It's like, I have 30 minutes.
It's finding a patience. That is a good way to put it, where you have to be used to the idea of just being like, okay, my adrenaline is starting to come up. I really want to do something about it, but I'm just not going to yet because it's just not time.
Well, there's one thing like I've stolen from what I do with powerlifting, but I always used to listen to music, and I don't listen to music at strongman shows like to hype up, but I will turn on the Johnny Cash to chill.
Right.
So it's either, okay, here's the athlete meeting, start warming up. I'm like, all right, best investment ever. I got myself a pair of those Bose Quiet Comfort headphones.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal for planes. I had 2 16U soccer teams on the flight back.
My head gets too sweaty if I wear big headphones.
I tolerate with it. I'll just deal with it. But but I'm sitting in the back, can't hear a thing. And it's just like, I'm just in my own little world, just hanging out, chilling. I'm on a cattle ranch in Texas or something. It's like, this is great. And so like that was helpful. But I find that, it's like just chilling until it's go time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just get gassed out.
And that's a learned skill. That's a practice skill to be able to do that.
Really
you know
have
what I mean?
to.
Like it's not something you can just be like, I can do that now. Some people can. Not most.
Some people can. It's actually Ryder turns out to be pretty good at that. But so I mean like it's just one of those things where like the pace of the show is the same for everybody.
Right.
The weights are the same for everybody. It's like whether it's too light or too heavy, it's the same thing.
Right.
Deal with it. I know some guys were saying it's like, oh, that car deadlift wasn't 725. I'm like, it felt about that.
Right.
It's like it felt about where I'd expect it to be.
There's nothing that I love more than the guy who knows more than the scale. The guy who can determine weight better than a fucking crane scale. Because we had a few of those at nationals. Sean Hayes, I'm looking at you, buddy. And they were so quick to be like, oh, I don't know about this weight, dude. Listen, you know that I love you guys. You know that I love all the strongmen in Canada. But I promise you that you're not better at measuring weights
than the tractor scale.
Than a scale is, okay? You're just not. And realistically, like you said, so they thought it was more or less than 725.
Well, there's some guys who were saying it felt just really heavy.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what I said. I was like, it's heavy.
It's heavy, but you got 8 reps on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's make it lighter so you have to get, what, 15? You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I mean. And that, to me, that was a perfect car deadlift.
Yes.
Like I said, I mean, I did my first ever hitch.
I saw that.
My first ever hitch.
Yeah.
And after watching that Marcus Crowder video, probably my last ever hitch. So it's like, it was, I think it was appropriate weight. The thing, there were a couple of guys who were really strong statically. Like there's one guy from BC who has like a 780 deadlift on a stiff bar. He zeroed.
Right.
I don't know if it was just travel, if he was just not feeling great, whatever.
Sure.
There's another guy, I know like Quinn, he's got the SCC deadlift record. He pulled whatever, 765 on I think it was a Kratos bar. I can't remember which bar it was. But so it's like he's got the deadlift record. Well, he got 3 reps.
Right.
And it's just because he pulls pretty stiff-legged.
Right.
It's a different apparatus. Where like if you actually watch me do it, I was almost squatting the thing.
There was a few guys that I really was not loving the technique they were using. They were very high hips, trying to make it like a too much back. They just weren't getting their lower body involved enough with it.
Well, especially with the figure 8s, you're just there.
Yeah.
So just sit into it, wedge into it, and just let yourself fall back.
I didn't love a lot of what I was seeing with it, and it was mostly guys who were getting tired, and then they'd fall into this kind of like straight leg position and stuff. But I was like, you're not getting shit with that. Like with the last year in Winnipeg, the Viking press was the point of contention for people, but it was like people were saying, oh, it's too heavy and this and that. Well, it's like, well, Dan got 10 reps.
Yeah, you know what shouldn't be any heavier than that.
No, so if Dan can get 10, is your press not a tenth of the strength of Dan?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You could get one if you whatever. So, but and again, like I said, we're not going to lower the weight and make Dan get 15 reps because he's done it. He's gotten 10. He's got double digits. That's and for you got 8. That's plenty of reps on a car deadlift. Any more than that, it takes away the specialness of lifting a fucking car because it makes it look like this is actually pretty easy. This guy can do it 16 times. You know what I mean?
That's the one thing with let's just even go back. I remember the whole World's Strongest Man Eddie Thor controversy. I think the winning was like 17 reps on that Viking press. I'm like, that's too much.
Too much.
Way too many reps. Yeah. You're there the whole minute, just going.
Yeah.
It's like, make it heavy, make it brutal, make these guys grind out some reps. It shouldn't be a time thing.
I like the ones where it's like 2.5 minutes and guys will get like 3 reps in it.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I
like,
mean?
watch
Like
these
the
guys
like the
suffer.
Arnold, like the Austrian oak and stuff, where it's like
Yeah.
there's they have a big long window and they hit one and they put it down, take a minute, and they'll hit it. Like I like those ones.
Well, I think that's why the Austrian Oak, where Z comes out and hits 4 reps after everyone else, that's why that was special, because everyone else zeroed it. It wasn't because he got 15 reps and someone else got 9.
That's a great point.
Right?
Yeah.
It was special because no one else could do it.
Yeah.
He came out and he did it.
Did it for
so I think the
multiple.
car deadlift, they killed that.
Yeah,
I think they did a really good job. And the lobster trap one in the middle, that was just cool.
That was great. No, I thought that one thing that Sam and Max, shout out to Sam, strongest woman in Canada 4 times now, and shout out to Sam and Max for just putting on a great show as they do. They are in like a new a new phase of their lives, like having just moved to a new province, all within a year, opening a new gym, all this shit, and then taking on this insane project, and also but just making it visually appealing, making it cool, making it different. Like you saw this one and you were like, oh, it must be a maritime thing because there's like the lobster, you know what I mean? Like it was just
everything made sense.
Yeah,
and honestly too, we got lucky with the venue because the venue let us put the live stream upstairs.
We
were kind of just like, there's a balcony up there, can we use that? They're like,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and it was like
great.
outside a ballroom, they ran us Wi-Fi and stuff, so like everything worked really well to make it presentable.
I know that Thrones had some issues with like the infrastructure that they have in place for their shows versus the stuff that he uses for his online presentation. And I'm sure that was a little bit frustrating, probably for both sides. But
there were some miscommunications as to whose score sheet was being used.
Right.
And because of that, I think they kind of tried last minute to mesh things together.
Yeah.
I know there were a lot of compliments on Throne's stream.
That's what I wanted to say too.
Was that very, very happy?
Was that whatever miscommunications there may have been, like behind the scenes or organizationally or whatever, the stream itself was awesome, very watchable, very fun. The commentary was very good. I really just want to take a moment just to acknowledge that the Thrones did a great job on that, because it was very watchable, even compared to ours last year, which we had some significant limitations compared to what Thrones has put together and worked with since then. But just to see a year's change there is really, really remarkable.
Well, and shout out to, I believe it was Christine Fox, is that the Atlantic Pro?
Yes.
Yeah, she volunteered after competing to sit with Thrones all day doing commentary.
Oh, was she? Okay, I missed the part where they said who it was, so I was never entirely sure who the woman was.
Christine
but
Fox.
She did a great job.
Yeah.
She did a great job on commentary.
Well, it was nice because Thrones knows the West,
right?
And she knew the East.
Yes.
So that was quite nice.
Yes.
Where it's like, oh, hey, this is actually pretty cool. You gotta. It's not like Thrones like, oh, here's Andrew Langelaar, here's Billy Hornaday, and she's like, oh, here's this athlete, here's this athlete.
Yeah,
and
I do
it
like
was
that.
Awesome that we had the two.
She's strong as hell too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she rules.
Yeah.
I know that she got. I met her and a friend of hers, I believe. I can't remember her name, but they're both like similarly built women, like they're big ladies, and they had both started like in their 40s, like doing strongman or something. Like it was something awesome like that, where like late 30s, early 40s.
That there's so many masters women's strongman athletes.
Yeah,
because,
but she's doing SWIC.
Think of a demographic that most needs to build strength.
Right, yeah.
It's probably, that's up there.
Yeah, I would say
it's
so,
like middle-aged soccer moms. Like, that's up there.
Yeah.
And there's more and more of them getting into strongman. It's awesome.
I just love how it really shows how we've barely scratched the surface of what women in strength sports can do. When a woman is, I believe that she's a mother. She's like in her let's just say let's split number, say it was 40 when she started doing this. She's 40 years old. She's like, I want to start doing this thing, and then she becomes one of the best in the country at it. You know what I mean? Like it's just like there's such an untapped potential in women in strength sports that they just don't even fucking know could be there.
Like, man, what an absolute inspiration to anybody out there watching.
I hope
right?
so.
I mean, really and truly. I mean, like, you got like Sam, you get Mel, where it's like they're young, they look athletic, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like when you have people in their 50s out there competing,
love
like,
it.
come on, how can you? And I'll get to this a little bit later because there was some very inspirational stuff that happened in the record breakers. But like, I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, it is great.
So I mean, like, just to kind of go back and kind of we'll wrap up the show sort of thing. Or the men's open kind of part of it, because I want to talk about the actual event too. Because there was some awesome stuff that happened behind the scenes too. And so like Sandbag Medley they were nice to us. So I don't know if you watched me launch that first bag.
Yeah.
It was 250.
Oh yeah.
They cut it down for us. So like Billy and I are sitting there and we're watching. We're like, that does not look like a 300-pound bag.
Right.
Like either that one's 300 and the other one's bigger, and then Max stood it up and we saw the 250. We're like,
Oh, okay.
okay, that's nice. So now we know we just launched that bag.
Right.
And I think the Inukshuk was 250.
Oh, okay.
That's what Billy said. I didn't take a good look at it. I just was like, it's heavy. So that worked out well. I think that Inukshuk bag really sewered a lot of guys.
Yeah.
If they would have just taken a second to lap it, and that's what I was watching. I'm like, guys are trying to pick it up, and it's like falling. I'm like, hey, well, why didn't you just take the second, get it on your knees, give it a full seatbelt bear hug, call it a day? And a lot of guys just tried to Husfell it up and then go.
Yeah, you need to be pretty sure of that. Like, to be honest with you, I like say like when we did the Husfell and Gimli, I do closer to the thing that you're talking about, which is just like pick it up and go. But that's how I train it too. You know what I mean? Like,
with the Husfell, you can get away with it.
Yeah,
because it's rigid.
Yeah.
With this, it's got those arms.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, because I did the same thing with the Husfell, I just grabbed it and go.
Right.
But it's a steel.
Right.
It's a steel implement. This is sandbag. So like the guys are grabbing it, and if you don't have a good purchase on it, a lot of guys are like just carrying it. You can't get it
like actually with their hand, it turns
in their
into like
hands,
a bicep curl kind of thing. Yeah.
So I'm like, I think if guys had just taken a second
Yeah.
and treated it like a regular sandbag,
Yeah.
because if you just got under the arms and around the waist, it was just another sandbag.
Right.
So
we were watching America's Strongest Man, and I was seeing that too. A lot of guys using a lot of their biceps to hold it in.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you're relying on a weak, small muscle to be able to hold.
with a tendon that likes to pop.
Yeah.
So. I think that one sewered a lot of guys. I know a lot of guys were very frustrated about that event, but again, it's like we were the last ones to go. You could have watched the other divisions.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And you should. That's advice that I would give to any open men's division competitor, is that you're the last one to go. You should not only be watching the open men's though.
Yeah.
You know, you should be watching the other people who go too, because somebody, if there's a mistake to be made, a really weird one, or if there's an edge to be gained, somebody in those lighter divisions is going to find it.
Yeah, one's like, for example, it was where the bag rested. And so, like, Billy, when he finished, he kind of bumped it forward with his hips. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Because we saw another guy do that.
Yep.
I chose to copy one of the U90 men and just dive.
Yeah. Well,
that was intentional, I promise.
But that is a strategy too, right? And like, so when I did Westerns in 22, we had a tire flip, which I've actually haven't done that since that competition, but it was a really new tire. So there was no wearing on the edge, so you couldn't get your fucking fingers under it. And so guys were going and they're like, I don't know what to do. They were stumped by it.
Yeah.
And then Liam actually went, Liam of Zone Smelling Salts, and he would like hammer his upper body into it, bump it a little bit, and then when it would make that bump, he put his fingers under it. And I was
That's
like,
a dangerous game,
if it works, it's a dangerous game.
It's a way to lose a finger.
Yeah, but he was doing it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to give that a shot and see if it works.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it did. And you only had to get, I think I only had to get 4 flips like that, and that got me really high enough to keep my podium spot. And but if the point of that though is that if I wasn't looking at what guys were doing before me, the Farm Strong show last year, there was the extra bolt at the bottom of the power stairs.
Oh yeah.
And so guys were hitting that on the thing, be like, what the fuck is going on there? I can't get it over. But a couple guys didn't watch the guy before them who made the exact same mistake.
Yeah, if you're just paying attention, you know, there's a pin.
I got to go
that.
just that half-inch higher, and so the guys who were paying attention really benefited from that. So I see that a lot of guys who it's like, well, it's not my turn, so it's time for me to fuck off and go into, killer mode with my hood up and sit in the back, whatever. And that's fine if that works for you. But I really do think that people should try to keep their head on a swivel and see what's going on around them.
Well, I think there's enough strategy to be gained in the sport. Like in powerlifting, you know what you're going to lift.
Sure, yeah, that's different.
You know what you're going to hit. Just go out do your thing. But with this, there's technique. And there's a reason why Mitch Hooper's so good. Mm-hmm. The squat event at the Shaw, he gamed that perfectly.
Just paying attention, yeah.
Just paying attention. He goes, oh, it's not about the knee angle. It's about getting it from A to B.
Right.
And he basically just good morning did.
I think that's an interesting point you say there too. Is the idea that people might conflate too much the idea that this is a lifting sport, and when people are powerlifting, they're sitting in the back and they're getting ready for the next thing, whatever, and they don't have to pay attention to what's going on because everything is uniform and everything is exactly the same every time they do it. And strongman and powerlifting have many, many similarities, and they have many, many ways that they part. And that's one of the ways that they part is that it's much more. They're both sports, but there's much more variation and random outcomes in strongman that are worth paying attention to.
Absolutely, and like that's what makes it fun, right?
Right, yeah,
there
exactly.
is some strategy to it.
Yeah.
It's very, very nuanced that way, and that's why I've liked it. But again, yeah, if you don't pay attention, so if you're just sitting with your music blaring, you're going to lose points.
You're gonna miss stuff.
And I mean, we even saw that, like at MSM with the platform that was loose, and guys not shouldering stones or whatever, and that kind of like there were things going on there. And then I mean, going into the stones, shout out David Nolette. He actually
Always.
pronounced my name correctly.
Really? Wow.
So I go out there and he goes, "Now there, Andrew Langelaar." I'm just like,
oh, you got like
and
the
so I
real
looked,
right
so
way.
I looked at him. I went, "That was the right one." And he goes, "Ah." I was like, "Yeah, it's Dutch." He goes, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Awesome. Go get him." Smacks my ass. I'm like, "Ah."
He's like, oh, I was trying to get it wrong.
So Caro, I guess I didn't know this, but I basically clinched a podium spot if I basically just didn't screw up the stones.
Right.
So Caro walks over. She goes, "Welcome to the circuit."
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, "Oh, fun," because Dave's,
Right,
smacking me
right.
around. So I go up there, and someone's like, "You could do this, Andrew. You got this." And I'm like nervous. So
Sure, yeah, of course, sure.
And so there's Joey Lavalley right across from me, and he's just staring at me.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like crack a joke to lighten the mood. I'm just like, "Well, how can I fail? Joey give me the baby blues." And he looks at me and he goes, I'm like, "Ah!" So I'm doing the stones. I'm just like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
So harassed.
Yeah, we love Joe.
But so, I made it through the stones, and the whole time I'm just like, I'm too slow. I'm too slow. I'm
Right,
too slow.
right,
Because
right.
I'm bobbling.
Because it was slow for you.
For
Like,
me, it was
compared
slow.
to a normal run for you.
For me,
was
it
quite
felt
slow.
very, very slow. One thing I was thrilled about is they made that last stone heavier.
What was the weight of the last one?
415.
Fuck yeah.
So
That's
as soon as
the
they
perfect
said
end to the run.
that, I was like, thank goodness.
Who hit? Was just you hit that stone?
There was a couple of us. So
Couple guys
I
did,
hit
yeah.
it. Billy hit it. Quinn Graham hit it.
Sweet.
Oh heck, there's one more guy. One other guy hit it, but I guess Kevin only got 3.
Oh, so that was a big dump for him, eh?
And so he almost had the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would have been enough to catch me with the points.
Right.
But he almost had it, and then his foot slipped backwards and he dropped.
Oh,
and that was what did it. But like I said, I was talking to some of the guys. I'm like, well, yeah, I'd rather it be a who can finish versus a race to finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like at 385, it's like, well, a lot of the field's going to finish
Yeah.
at the national level.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then went backstage and hung out. And the weird thing was they did the men first
For stones.
for stones.
Huh. I wonder why that is.
I have no idea. I honestly, maybe it was something with they didn't want to have to. Oh, you know what I'll bet it was? Is they probably wanted to move less stones. Probably the way they had it set up. It was easier to take stones away and just move them over.
Sure. Yeah, that makes
Maybe
sense.
that's what it was.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
makes
know.
sense.
So,
Once
but either way-
you're at the end of that day, you make all kinds of crazy, rash decisions that might not make sense even moments later. But you're just like,
Yeah.
whatever I'm thinking in this moment, it makes the most sense to me right now. So like,
I think what they did maybe is they had like the open men and they had a lighter man, and then as they pulled the heaviest stone away, they took the lightest stone from that run and bumped it over.
Oh, yeah, that
So
makes
it
sense.
seemed to flow really smoothly,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
But so either way, yeah, they had us go first. I was fine. I could get all the tacky cleaned off and stuff, and kind of chill. And yeah, they called out the podium, and I was on top.
Tremendous. Yeah, it was very exciting to see. We were watching it from the gym here, and I was feeling pretty confident after watching the first little bit. I was like, "Okay, a podium seems like a pretty good chance here, but you never know, right? Like it just takes one bad event to fuck yourself, right?" So we were watching with bated breath, and then once we got to the point where you were at the stones, I was like, it would take a pretty significant fuck up here. You know what I mean? And it didn't happen. So congratulations on a huge finish, though, man.
So yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah,
It's
as you
pretty
should
cool.
be. Yeah.
I will say I don't. So they scared us on the podium though. Like, oh, like would the following come up and receive your pro cards? And they only called my name. I see the other guys like, what? But I guess they give out Strongman Corp Canada pro cards, as well as the Circuit pro card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which I don't really know what it does. Jeffers doesn't know what it does either.
I think it's something that they would be building towards.
I think that's kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
It's kind of the expanding off SWIC kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of even like what it
So-
would be right now to be like a U80 Pro, where it's like there's only 3 of them, or I guess if it's a podium, there's 9 of them, whatever. Because they have to build these divisions before they can even have.
And I
pro
think
shows for
that's
them, right?
what it might be, where they're just trying to build it up. So we got that, and then they called everyone out for the circuit. I'm like, okay, cool. And like everyone did get their pro cards, so
Yeah.
it was good. It was fun. And then I mean, other Manitoba athletes too, though. I mean, Ryder. finished third.
Yeah, he did fantastic. Yeah.
And props to him, because this was the first show where I really kind of had to tell him, like, hey, I'm your coach, but I'm here as an athlete.
Right. Yeah.
You're
yeah.
kind of on your own today.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll help you what I can. I'll yell at you what I can, but like I'm in athlete mode today.
Just wait till you're promoting the show too.
Exactly right. And
You
so
get to coach people, compete, and promote the show at the same time. That's where the real fun in strongman is.
So and that was where, and again, honestly, he did really well where he managed himself well. I know he was a little frustrated after the sandbag because there was a timing error and they blew the whistle. So he had like an extra.
Yeah, he like walked off.
He had a bunch of extra
him and
time.
the other guy both. They thought they were done or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So they probably should have just given them an extra 15 seconds or something just to get some distance. So I didn't look at the points. I don't know if it would have actually changed anything for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just good at front carries. Like he'll just go all day with that sandbag at Iron Image.
Right.
So yeah, he was very happy. Obviously, his family and all that was thrilled to be out there. I was pumped for him and all that.
Awesome.
Clint did not have the day he wanted.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody outside of you and Ryder from Manitoba really performed the way that they wanted to.
No.
But and this isn't me coming here to like wipe away people's tears or whatever. But you know, these days happen. First of all, you're at a high level competition,
traveling across the country.
To do it. That's something that I think that people. When I was talking to Trevor a few days out, he was like, "Yeah, I just feel really nervous. Like, I just have like a lot of nerves." I was like, "Well, keep in mind that like I get nervous when I have to travel too, without competing."
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you think about it and you're just like, fuck, did I bring all my, you know what I mean? Like whether it's like the type of nervousness, excited nervousness that you get from like competing or the stress that you get from traveling, it's hard to discern those two things.
So
you know
I
what
had sent my comp bag out with Ryder's family because they were road tripping.
Yeah.
The night before I was leaving, I was still like, do I have everything? I'm like,
right, yeah, of course.
You went through your packing list 3 times over.
But it doesn't matter though.
Right? It doesn't matter. But it's like you're always thinking like, oh, did I miss something? Did I forget something? Like,
I've had it where I've been about 10 minutes from my house and I stop and I pull over the side of the highway and I just go to the back and just open my bag and be like, okay, yes, everything is there. Everything is there that I put in there before I put in this fucking car. But
yes, exactly.
It'll just sit in my head. It'll just rattle around until I go and have a look. So I've done it before with wrestling and with strongman all the time. So
and I think that like, that was probably a factor in it. I mean, like they were in good spirits. I mean, like should we address our mishap from last week?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the Manitoba athletes. We didn't mention Blakely or Trevor. In my own defense, I was thinking like outside, like the Manitoba outside of my gym, but whatever the fuck, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
we knew that they were both going there, and they were both in the Masters heavies. And Clint, we did the 105, and then with you and Open and Ryder and the team, we had a nice, unfortunately female-less representation there. But you know, for say like a guy like Clint or whatever, or Trevor or Blakely, like I said, this is the highest level competition that they've done, and the highest level competition that you've done too.
Yeah.
So to predict how you're going to perform at that kind of competition is one thing, but you can't predict how the other best people in the country are going to perform.
That's the other
or
thing.
You can't,
who's
not,
going
not
to
like
turn
successfully
up well?
At least. Yeah,
right?
like it's just you can only hold yourself to your own standard.
Yeah.
And if you didn't perform the way that you wanted to, you know, I'm not saying look for excuses, but like be real with yourself and be like, this is my first big competition like this. I have no idea how to handle a competition where things are running at a weird pace that I'm not used to. I flew across the country the day before this. You know, there's all kinds of reasons that you could be like, well, I can at least internalize these things and work on them and realize that it's not because I fucking suck, or it's not because I whatever. It's because I just have things that I need to practice and hone in my own skill set.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, like, we are almost spoiled to a detriment here in Manitoba where the shows run very smoothly. And I think that when things went a little haywire, some of the guys, maybe, I mean, myself included, were kind of like, oh,
yeah,
this is weird.
Like, where do we go from here?
Yeah, where do we go from here? Because I'm used to like, we're waiting for you, get out.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Rushing you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, shoot, okay, I got to go. And so, I don't know, maybe it was a little bit of a detriment to guys. I know, like, poor Blakely just tore his calf.
So he did tear it? I haven't talked to him.
It was a grade 2 tear.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so
he's
him and Thrones and I spent a lot of time together. He
yeah.
just ended up taking your spot on the Airbnb, but like not actually sleeping there.
I love Blakely. I really like
such
him.
a nice guy. I didn't really know him until this weekend, and then like we're in the Toronto airport. I'm like, that looks like Chris Blakely, and Thrones like, that is Blakely.
Yeah, great dude.
Yeah,
but yeah, and I really hope that everybody who if you didn't have the day that you wanted to there that day, you don't take it as like, oh, I don't belong here or whatever. You weren't ready yet in that moment.
Yeah.
Or maybe you weren't ready that day and you were the day before. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it's it's a sport of ups and downs. If it was good all the time, it wouldn't be fun to do.
Yeah, I mean, like it's so cliche to go back to. It's like, oh, Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, sometimes things just happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when I talk to them, they seem to be in good spirits, at least. I didn't talk to Trevor as much because I don't really know him that well, but Clint seemed to be in good spirits. Blakely was, bummed out about his calf, but like it wasn't one of those things where he's like, oh, I suck. He's just like, bad luck.
And he is a little injury prone too, so he's quite used to the mental aspect of being hurt. I think, which is like not a fun skill to hone, but he's like
it's not gonna set him back some crazy amount, right?
And Clint too. If I were to look, he's just started working with Devin, so he was working I think either by himself or with somebody else who was not as qualified before. So, you can only expect so much in a few months of working with a coach, realistically. Like it's going to be that time spent together, especially now in the off season, where you're going to start to see real progress and real change.
Well, I think being at that level of experience too. I mean, Clint will be someone to really watch next season because he's tasted that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll be interesting to see.
Yep.
And the next day, the record breakers.
Oh yeah.
So, two things that stuck out to me. They had the adaptive athlete, Carrie.
Right.
Holy crap.
Yeah, she's strong.
What is your excuse?
Yeah.
Honestly, tell me what your excuse is, because that
rules.
woman is a badass.
I have her on Instagram, and I see a lot of her stuff.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah.
It also made me think, it's like, why are they not implementing some of those adaptive exercises into the full shows?
Just like regular
so
shit.
Like a seated deadlift.
Yeah.
Give the top guy, give Mitch Hooper and Thor and those guys, give them a seated deadlift. Let's see what they can do. Because I think that people would look at those events and kind of think like, oh, well, it's an adaptive thing, right? It's like, no, that's hard.
Oh yeah, no, dude, that's
really,
it's a whole
difficult.
different. It's to call it a deadlift it's really similar only in name because it's such a different.
Yeah, like it's borderline a backlift.
Yeah.
So I mean, like watching her compete all day was incredible.
Yeah.
And then I think her partner, husband, Emmanuel, so he competed all day, supported and handled her all day. Mm-hmm. The next day, he comes out and does all 3 record breakers. He did 10 sandbags in a row.
Wow.
Went out, did every single circus dumbbell attempt in a row, and then set a stone record.
Really?
For men's 50 plus.
Damn, that's awesome.
So I'm sitting there with Thrones. I'm like, is he gonna skip anything? So I hop on the commentary and I'm like, he's come out for every single sandbag, and he got up to something stupid. It was like a 320-pound sandbag or something like that. And it's like, he's got the coolest beard ever, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, holy crap, this guy is amazing. So that was amazing to see. And like some of the other female athletes who were there for the record breaker, I think might have also been Carrie, but there was another like woman who was from Ontario in the 40 plus circus dumbbell. She just kept going, and we're like, what is happening? And then Taylor Woods,
well, she's just a monster.
but like she was that close to a 300-pound sandbag.
Really? That's
like, it was like
awesome.
a 10-second rep on her chest. Thrones was saying he's like, there are 3 of the most impressive failed lifts I've ever seen, and they're all Taylor.
They're all from Taylor, yeah.
And like she had the circus dumbbell where she was like fighting with it, and she was like in a split jerk. Like, what the heck is going on here? Like,
well, if you've seen her deadlift, like she had a really awesome deadlift at OSG. She also had a really awesome deadlift at SWIC this last weekend, where a bar moving at an imperceptibly slow rate does not mean the lift is over for her. She will fucking like just manhandle that thing until eventually it ends up in a locked out position, and to the point where you would see that first pull off the ground, and it gets off the ground, it gets to her knees, and you're like, sorry, no, Taylor, like, there's no fucking way, and then it just keeps moving, and you're like, well, I don't know what I'm talking about, obviously, because this is insane.
Well, Thrones is saying, she's like, oh yeah, this is like a side thing for her. She plays hockey. I'm like, what?
She's a pro hockey player.
Like, who is this? I hadn't heard of her.
She did a powerlifting meet the weekend before.
That's what he was saying too. I'm just like, okay, so you're a pro hockey player, you did a powerlifting meet and this, and she's prepping for OSG or something. Like, what is happening?
She's
like,
truly an athlete's athlete.
Yeah, like I'm sitting here, I'm just like, I am nothing, and my accomplishments are insignificant.
She makes me think of like a female Canadian like Jeff Capes or something, where it's like he did like track and field, he did powerlifting, he did strongman, he did weightlifting, and she's the same, where she can just do all these things.
Yeah,
where it's like
it's almost like Mark Henry, right? Where it's like, like, she could tell me, oh yeah, we're gonna go into the WWD. I'm like, do your thing. Go flip off of things.
She's such a freak athlete. That is just awesome.
So there was just some really, really awesome performances. I mean, like some of the stones, like some of the ladies, like just grinding things out where I'm like, this is not happening.
Yeah.
Jeffers got a little spicy in the chat around Jackie Chevsky's stone record.
Oh.
Because Mel loaded the previous record to 48 and SEC uses 46.
Oh.
So Mel loaded 325 to 48. Jackie did 335 to 46.
Well, newsflash, Jeffers. They're SEC records, so
that was kind of funny. I'm just like, oh,
get your head out of
James
your rear end
Jeffers.
there, pal.
Jeffers is also Mel Peacock's carer now.
Yeah, apparently.
In the chat, everyone kept tagging Jeffers saying, "Where's Mel? Where's Mel?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "She's at a wedding."
He's the keeper.
Yeah. We Mitch Peacock over here. We're not talking about her. We're talking about people who were at the SEC event.
But even Jackie, she was very close to that. If there was a mid stone, I think she would have been good for another jump.
Jackie's awesome, and she's somebody that I pointed out this before on the show, I believe, that she sort of gets lost in the shadow of, say, like Mel or Sam or whatever, because they just happen to be so amazingly good.
Yeah.
But she is so awesome. Like, she's so good
phenomenal.
at strong
And it was,
women.
but SWIC was also not a runaway for Sam this year at all by any means. And it's like, so yeah, put some respect on those other names,
Jackie
right?
rules, and she's going to be somebody who is making some real noise in the next little while. I think on a more international scale, I believe.
I'd like to see it.
I would love to see.
We have so many talented athletes. Like, get them out there.
Yep.
So
we're getting towards the end here. But I want to first of all thank you for that in-depth analysis of the competition, and so let's put a little skin on this here. So next year, Westerns, we know. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. So there's all these fucking rumors flying around about what's the events and what's this and that. And there's one thing that I don't like. It's people having an edge on a competition when other people don't have it. So apparently there's gonna be like a squat next year at Westerns.
yeah, I saw that.
They're gonna use those drill bit dinny ring things. I'm hearing.
I kind of figured they would use.
Yeah,
those.
I mean that's like they like them, and that's
and they look cool.
It's like a trademark thing, I guess. Viking press is what I'm hearing.
I mean, if they can, I will say, if they're going to do the squat off the Viking press, it would make sense to me to have them use the same
double
implement,
up.
right?
And their
Just
Viking
use the
press
same
is really
thing.
cool too. It's a really
It
cool
is a
implement.
giant, like towering thing. Yeah. They're talking about truck pull, probably.
Truck pull, yeah. So I'll tell you something right now. To all my amateurs, all the people that I got love for in the amateur scene, if I know anything, I'm gonna tell you guys, because I don't think the pros should have any more information than anybody else has, and I don't think the Alberta guys should have any more information than the other Western Canadian guys have either, fuckers. So, just kidding, guys. Or am I? But anyway, so that's the weekly rumor roundup for Westerns here. But I want to say that because. Let's assume that we kind of just don't know anything for sure about Westerns next year. We know
where it is, and
we know where it is, and it's 2 days, and that's it.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be next year at Westerns, and where, like, if you're being real with yourself?
I'd like to just improve on my placing from this year.
Okay.
Yeah, like if I finish within the top 8, I'd be happy with that.
Okay, great.
We'll see what the events are. I mean, like once the events start come out, then like, hey, if there's a squat, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Yeah, there's a few guys who are gonna fucking bend me over on that squat, put their fingers in my butt.
Brad Shepard comes out for his once-a-year pro show.
Yeah, Brad. That would be one for Brad to walk away with.
But you know what I mean? It's like that. So it depends on the events, right? Where it's like if it's a deadlift, hey, you'll get me. It's like it just depends on what they want to put in.
I'm really hoping with 2 days. Like, why not do a squat for reps and then a max deadlift? You know what I mean? Like, that would be fun.
Well, and that was the other thing I was kind of thinking of is, like, if it's 2 days, just do more events.
We'll do more events, yeah.
I mean, because, hey, that's good for me. Things split points. The pressing is less important.
Yeah,
do 8 events.
I would like to see...
Or do 4 the first day and 3 the second.
Yeah,
you know, like do something
I
like
think,
that.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think 7 is perfectly reasonable, 6 to 7. I haven't... One of the things that we haven't heard anything about is stones. I haven't heard stones brought up at all as like a. But
they did stones
thing.
at. Did they do stones at?
I don't think they did. Oh
no, it was King of Queen.
That one they did. But we didn't have stones last year at Western, so please put some fucking stones in it, guys. Come on.
I was talking to, maybe it was Jeffers, maybe it was someone else. Well, like, I like the Shaw where they had the manhood stones.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
I think there's a lot of talk about who's the best stone loader.
Yeah, and I'm the second best stone loader in Canada.
Exactly, right? Exactly. You heard it here first.
Prove me wrong.
So And it's like, why not just do something really heavy?
Yeah,
You know, like JF's got the big pedestals and it's difficult and
but
it's a hard
they
run. It's
have
heavy.
the heavy stones out there too. They have like a
That's
500
what
pound stone out there.
Exactly.
So yeah,
and that's what I mean. Let's
I think
just
that would be sweet.
and they could make a cool bar, like make some kind of like oiled rig looking kind of
Yeah,
and just have a couple stones
Yep.
and just say, hey, pick your stone.
Yeah.
Heavier stone trumps the other stone, and just literally take the strongest man.
I think that's a great idea. I think that'd be really cool, and I think that there's very few places that could do that right now.
I also just selfishly want a reason to push the stones because I was watching that record breaker and I'm just like crying. I'm like, I want to do it, but my hands messed up, my quads messed up. This is a bad idea.
I would love that, and there's very few places that could make that happen because there's very few places that have heavy enough stones. And I know that out Bird Away they do. So I hope that they would consider something like that. Listen to the show, guys. Pay attention. We're giving you guys all kinds of free information here that you should be using on your competition. So, real quick before we wrap up here, quick shout out. Lucas Hatton, 2 times in a row, ASM, America's Strongest Man. Hasn't been done since I think 2015 or something like that. There was
something like that. It's been a long time. I was looking into the previous winners, and I mean, well deserved.
Stiff competition.
Yeah.
Kevin Ferris, Tim Buck.
Well, and also, honestly,
Andrew Burton.
Speaking of stones, can we just all acknowledge that Lucas is one of the best at this point
in the world?
Like, I feel like he doesn't get talked about enough
none.
when people are predicting, but like he is so good.
He's what I would give him the distinction of is that he's the best stone loader with the worst stone loading leverages.
Yeah,
like he's the least stone loading built guy.
I think he made a comment where he's like, I shouldn't be good at stones because I'm built like one.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I think it's what I remember him saying that in the video.
Maybe he just understands the stones in a different way.
Knows,
like he's just like,
mentally,
I
am stone. But,
but
he's so phenomenally technical with them.
Like the guys who are better than him at stones right now are guys who have 8-foot wingspans and are 19 feet tall. And it's just like these guys he's just not supposed to be good like that. And he just
is. I mean, I honestly, I copied his tape job technique and like phenomenal.
The top of the thing.
Phenomenal.
Love that.
Absolutely phenomenal how he does that.
3 times in a row.
3 times in a row. Shout out to Lucas
Hatton for just doing what you're doing. Yeah.
And I mean, also
for just doing what you're doing.
The unfortunate part of America's Strongest Man is the future field. We'll no longer be seeing Marcus Crowder.
Yeah.
He posted today that he's done.
Really? Yeah. Oh shit.
So he posted today. I'm assuming everyone knows that he tore both quads and broke a leg hitching a deadlift.
Yeah.
It was like deadlifting 1,000 pounds, and it just like went horrible video. I couldn't watch it.
I would not watch that.
But he posted today basically saying like, I've enjoyed my strongman career. I've enjoyed all the love and support from people, but I'm done.
That's so sad. I didn't know that. Damn.
Yeah, I mean that's a brutal injury.
Well, God, yeah. That's not something that I'm not saying
Yeah, but you know what? Hey, he went to Worlds. Did he? No, he was just off the podium at North Americans.
Yeah.
So it's like he did some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. No,
I mean, like, shame to see him go because like he just seemed like a good dude. I mean, I've talked to him in the DMs a couple times. He's just a nice guy. Yeah. But yeah, so unfortunately, that the field will be a little thinner continuing. Yeah. It'll be more of the same field. You won't have Marcus in the mix anymore.
Yep.
But
hate to see him go. Love to watch him leave.
Exactly.
That no, he. That's the real. I hopefully. That's a decision that can be reversed sometime in the future. We'll see.
Or he wants to get into promoting maybe or get back to the sport.
Yeah,
I don't know what his I can't imagine what his thought process is right now, but that's just what he'd said in his Instagram post was he's looking forward to downsizing and being healthy and stuff. So.
All right. Well, hey, best to him and whatever he chooses in the future.
And also like shout out to Lucas for killing the sandbags.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He finally had a good run because he's always saying he's so bad at sandbags, and he had a good run.
You want to talk about a guy who's finding something in him and turning a weakness into I don't think he would call it a strength, but he's making it so it's not a point loser for him. You know? What I mean,
he got 4 of the 5 or 5 of the 6 or whatever it was. So
just don't.
That's good points.
That's This is a lesson that I'm teaching myself too at the same time that I'm teaching it to my clients and stuff. Is don't just say I'm not good at something. We're not saying that anymore. We're not saying that I'm not good at. I suck at grip. Oh, I suck at press. Oh, I'm working on this. I'm getting better at it. These are all language choices that we're going to start using. That's going to change how. If you suck at something, well then why are we working on it? You suck. You know what I mean? Like
you're just destined to be terrible forever.
You suck at this thing. Yeah.
Like language is powerful. I mean, even Jeffers said he's like, well, if I podium at OSG this year, I'm going to come to Gimli. I'm like, when?
Yeah.
When you podium at OSG?
Yeah.
Come on, like have some optimism.
Language is powerful because Jeffers can't pronounce Tylenol either. Though. So we know that,
also yes.
that language. She's not peeing, is she? No, she's not. Okay. Language is a very powerful thing if you're illiterate like Jeffers is. So we're going to pretty much wrap things up here. So Coming up, so not this. So as you're hearing this, in 1 week at the Forge Gym, there is the novice competition coming up. There we'll now have 2 on the calendar season right now, which is fantastic. We're gonna have a new location.
Oh,
For the I'm waiting to hammer out the exact details of it, but we're gonna have a new location in a new part of the province for the April novice competition. So it works out really well to have this one down south. And you might have heard of the gym. I'm not sure if
I may have an idea.
Yeah, we're gonna we'll wait before we announce anything. But if you're free, come check it out. Come watch the next gen of guys and girls coming up and competing. It's gonna be really, really fun. We're looking forward to it. We got this dummy back here, Abel, competing from my gym, and on November 9th, we have Manitoba Grip Sports' first ever competition, Iron Claw, happening right here at the gym. A couple exciting little things that happen with that. So Jose Morneau has signed up. If you don't know who Jose is, get the fuck a clue, because she's a legend of Canadian strength sports, and she's never done a grip competition before. She's like an arm wrestling champion. She has these fucking meat hooks that you wouldn't believe, and she is going to decimate most of the guys' numbers, I would think, in this situation.
I'm anticipating my numbers being crushed.
Yes, and we had another very exciting sign up too. I'm not sure if you might know who this is, but Ryan Espy.
The name rings a bell. I can't put a face to it.
He's a former Manitoba strongest man back in the day. He's also a world level arm wrestler.
Oh,
So he lives in Portage la Prairie. He's coming in for the competition. I saw his name on the sign up sheet, and I was like, "Oh God, that's fucking awesome!" I'm so excited. We have our men's and women's winners, so that's great.
already
So
determined.
now we're all just having fun past that. One more little thing too that we announced today that I want to put out there is that this is going to be pretty much moving forward for any competitions that we have here at Iron Age. Is that it's free to watch. Tell your friends, family to come down, check it out with you. We will be taking donations at the door. Spectator donation, whatever you want to call it. And it will all be donated to the Manitoba Brain Injury Association. That's correct, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. In memory of Brett Allen, who is Gian's brother-in-law. So we are really, really excited to have that opportunity to make just every little competition that we have benefit something in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Besides the innate benefit that we all get from competition and sport.
Also, bring all your money. My nieces, Millie and Maya, are going to be there for a lemonade stand at around 12 o'clock, I want to say.
Lemonade stand with 2 cute little girls selling lemonade. What else could you possibly ask for? Bring some cash that day, because it's going to be, I'd rather just deal with that than a bunch of e-transfers. But hey, whatever you can muster for the Manitoba Brain Injury Association. November 23rd, we have Deep Freeze, the WRPF push-pull that's being held here. Registration is going to be closed the day that this comes out at midnight. So if you've been hemming and hawing, thinking about it, this is your chance to sign up. Nice and easy, low entry. Like the fee to enter this one is like half of what it costs to do a fucking MPA meet, and it's a great opportunity to try out the sport of powerlifting if you've ever kind of been like, maybe,
yeah,
we'll
yes,
see.
no, maybe so. Yeah.
Please.
The weekend before or after is Nathan Payton?
Before, thank you for reminding me.
Before.
November 16th
Yeah.
at Training Grounds Gym. Nathan Payton, 8-time World's Strongest Man coach, will be in St. Malo of all places at Training Grounds Gym doing a seminar on nutrition. Man, if I had to sell you on this, I don't know what to tell you. He's one of the best nutrition coaches going today in sports. He's got results out the wazoo, and if you're not sure that this is for you to attend, you're a moron, and you should. So that's it.
The ghost of Devin Penner will be there.
Yes. Devin will be there spooking it up, haunting up the place. Yeah, with his terrible physique, scaring
And his
everybody.
crazy beard.
Yeah, scaring everyone. Andrew, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for stopping in a second time in a row. We're gonna give you a little break next week. Don't worry. Anything you want to touch on? Yeah, a little bit of breather.
No, honestly, it just feels good to join you and Dan in the ranks, and I think next year we might have another one or two.
I hope so too, man. And we're very happy to have 3 Manitoba pros. We're climbing up the rankings. We're not your little fucking stepchild anymore, Western Canada. We're some of the big dogs now too. So with that, thank you guys very much for paying attention. Thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe, share the video. If I mention somebody we mention somebody that you know, and they're like, hey, they don't listen to this podcast, send them a link. Tell them these guys talked about you a little bit. And we'll see you guys next week.